Carthage was desperate. Hanno's plan had collapsed on itself. On the east, he was winning battle after battle, but on the west, his empire was collapsing. His Iberian settlements were under threat from the Iberians and the Gauls. His African settlements were under threat from the local tribes, and his Sicilian settlements were under threat from the rebels and the Greeks. In Rome he had delayed far too long and was now having to rush down into Italy. At the south, his army and most of his family was trapped by a Roman sieging army. They would soon have to fight to the death. Will Hanno be able to claim his prize of Rome and get a peace treaty that suits him, or will it all result in a complete failure for both sides? The settlement of Corduba surrendered to the Iberians. Where was Admetos, they asked. Their leader, their governor, was gone. He had disappeared one night during the siege. Some thought he had fled, some thought he had been given a higher mission. Either way, the people of Corduba felt no willing at all to fight the Iberians and surrendered the settlement. Meanwhile, Carthago Nova was put under siege by the Gauls, but Hanno had arrived. He immediately put Arretium under siege and used his elephants to barge down the gates. Hanno was ready to gain his first blood on the Romans. His elephants were ordered forwards to barge down the gate, but Hastati waited on the other side, ready for the Carthaginians. The Romans had been caught completely off guard. They were a simple garrison unit, expecting nothing more than a few barbarians. They were shocked when they saw Hanno, king of Carthage, arrive with his elephants. Hanno ordered his troops through the gate. The Romans were simply outnumbered. They knew they stood no chance, and when the cavalry came in from the side, they instantly collapsed. Hanno sent his cavalry after the Roman general. The Roman general was killed on the battlefield before he could make it back to the plaza. After that, the battle was quickly over. Hanno had his first victory on the Romans. He had little time or care for the Romans. He immediately exterminated the population and made sure that his first victory would be remembered. The once great city of Arretium was burnt to the ground completely. He knew he had to set an example, and here he did it best. Immediately after this victory, he set his sight on Rome. He marched down to the border, crossed the Rubicon, and the great settlement was in sight. As easily as that, Rome had been brought to her knees. News had not yet reached the southern half of the peninsula about the coming Carthaginian army from the north, but when it does, it will terrify them all. The spy Akwat in the south immediately hurried up north to join with Hanno and give him news of the situation. He saw that Rome's centre was weak, proving that most of the Roman armies were in the south. The plan came together perfectly. It was his time to strike. A Roman army from out of nowhere emerged from the mountains and attacked Hanno. Their goal was to weaken Hanno to the point where he did not have the troops to actually make the push on the settlement. It was a suicide mission by the Romans, and taking part was a faction heir. He ordered his cavalry forwards and planned to take out the general as fast as he possibly could. He charged the war dogs and made sure that the ballista was also taken care of. The Roman faction heir decided to charge the Carthaginian infantry. Hanno dedicated all of his infantry to try and bringing him down. The Carthaginians felt a heavy blow when the cavalry charged, but reinforcements were on their way. The Roman general was cut down, the morale of the other general broke with it, and Rome collapsed. Now with both Roman generals dead, Hanno made the move for his cavalry to clean up the rest. The battle was won. He had taken a lot of losses, but still believed he had the troops left to bring down Rome itself. He lost 173 troops, a fifth of his army. Despite this, Hanno believed he still had the armies left to take down the city of Rome. One has to remember, he does still have his elephants in reserve, after all. To Fiagrizi's relief, The siege of Croton had been abandoned. He was clueless as to why, but Hanno was not. The spy Aquat saw it coming, but was unable to report it in time. Rome had brought all their armies north to defend their settlement. Hanno was surrounded by a large Roman force led by Vibius Julius. This battle would be the hardest yet. Burrus was under an immediate panic. An African tribal army had put the Carthaginian capital under siege. Carthage was put under siege before Rome. This frightened the Carthaginians. Hanno quickly heard news of this as Burrus made sure that his fastest messenger got onto the fastest ship with the fastest horse to give Hanno the news. Word had reached the barbarians of the north of a weakened Rome and Carthage. They immediately brought their troops to capitalise on this as much as they possibly could. Both Carthage and Rome, after destroying each other, realised they had the Gauls to now face as well. Hanno, whilst preparing for battle with his sons, deciding upon his strategies of how he was going to bring down this Roman army, was met with a messenger. A man named Admetos had arrived, claiming to be from Corduba, claiming to be a hero of the Carthaginian Empire. He stood by the side of Hanno and warned him that he was not to fight this battle. He told Hanno that he was to pull back, retreat back to Carthage, and deal with the situation. Iberia was lost. Carthage was also about to be lost. Yes, you may beat the Romans here, he says. Yes, maybe you will bring down Rome itself. But in doing so, it will cost you your own life. Hanno demanded that Admetos goes back home to Iberia. He would hear none of it. His hatred of Rome was too strong to reason with. That same night Hanno had a dream, and in his dream Theophanes came to him as a ghost. Theophanes gave Hanno the same warning to not fight this battle. Hanno was honest. He did not want to fight this battle also, but the Romans had him surrounded. There was no way out but to fight his way through. In the morning Hanno pulled back to the river crossing and decided to choose this as his place of battle. Theagris pushed north and put Tarentum under siege. His plan was to frighten the Romans and tempt them into a possible peace treaty. Hanno was attacked on the river crossing by two Roman armies. One of them was the garrison from Rome. Not only was this the largest battle Hanno has ever fought, but it was also against the highest quality troops he had ever seen, Principes. This battle will be a great turning point in the history of the First Punic War. It will be the deciding factor that changes Mediterranean history forever. And so the battle began. He immediately prepared to set up his troops. The Romans formed a line and crossed the single crossing. Hanno was confident he could beat this first legion, but the second from Rome, he was less so. He knew this battle would require his elephants if he was to win. Their general crossed first, so Hanno charged in his cavalry in an attempt to take him out. Kill the general now and the Roman morale would collapse. The general was killed and Hanno quickly pulled his cavalry out, not wanting the same morale penalties as the Romans. The cavalry was ordered in. The Romans began to collapse. Hanno made the decision to throw in his elephants into the battle. It was a risky move, but he saw the Roman morale collapsing and saw the time as right. Rome collapsed. They could do nothing against the coming of the elephants. His light cavalry was ordered to cut down the Romans as they fled. Only a few managed to escape. Hanno ordered his infantry back into position, ready to attack the other Roman army. He had to act quick, the Romans were coming. He pulled all of his troops out of the river and back into formation, intending to do again the same plan. This time the Roman general pulled back across the river, not wanting to die at the start, as his cousin had done. The Romans charged into the elephants but immediately broke. They had not seen monsters like this before. Again the Carthaginian troops were ordered forwards. Support of the elephants came, and the cavalry also responded. It was here that Hanno planned to end the Romans once and for all. The Roman general was killed. It was his time. The Romans broke yet again, learning nothing from their past defeat. Hanno charged across the river, cutting them all down, wishing not one Roman to escape back to Rome. This victory would be one the entire Mediterranean will remember. A massive pile of dead Romans were piled up into the water. Hanno had won the day. It was a heroic victory. All the Romans had been cut down. The way to Rome itself was open. He entered the settlement and claimed it his own. Hanno, knowing the Romans will never accept his presence in Rome, knew he had to exterminate the population. Meanwhile, Theagrides put the settlement of Tarentum under attack. A victory was gained here as well, and the population again exterminated. Hanno, out of humiliation towards the Romans, decided to burn down everything he could in Rome. From the Colosseum to the basic markets, everything was destroyed. Rome was burnt down to basically nothing. His battle on the river became so famous that it was marked on every single map thereafter. News reached Hanno that he had lost all his Iberian provinces, and that Carthage was under siege by an army that only he would be able to stop. Only Hanno could get here in time to save Carthage. However, the Romans put Rome itself under siege. Hanno was trapped, surrounded by the Romans. There was nothing he could do. Hanno rode out of the city of Rome and decided to speak with the Romans. He kept his army safe behind the walls. Hanno walked forwards towards the Roman general. His intention was completely peaceful. He had held grudges against the Romans in the past, but all that had washed away with the sacking of Rome. Now he wanted peace, and was willing to offer the Romans a high reward. He called to the Romans, but was immediately met by javelin fire. The Romans attacked him, and he was forced to retreat back into the settlement. However, the Romans caught up to Hanno and killed the Carthaginian king. The Romans celebrated at the death of the Carthaginian king, despite their city being burnt down. Carthage had lost its king. Hasdrubal was named the new faction leader and had learnt well from Hanno, as he had accompanied him on his journey across the Alps and into Rome. Hasdrubal named his brother Burrus as faction leader, giving the people of the city of Carthage confidence if he was to lead them in battle. Hasdrubal, a daring man, decided to mirror his father's actions. He walked up to the Romans. He stated that he was not the same man as his father, and asked for peace. The peace settlement he proposed as follows. Rome was to regain all of the Italian peninsula, including the city of Rome itself. Carthage would gain control over Sicily, the rights to take Syracuse off the Greeks, the rights to push further against the African tribes, and the rights to reclaim all territory lost in Iberia and southern Gaul. The Romans seemed tempted, but shook their head. The Romans knew that just as they were close to death, so were the Carthaginians. They knew Carthage was under siege. They knew of all the land the Carthaginians had lost in this quest. They knew how desperate Carthage were. Rome demanded, as agreed, that all the Italian provinces were to return to the Roman Republic. They also agreed that, yes, Carthage can act willingly against the African tribes, and in Iberia, and in southern Gaul. However, daringly made the demand that Messana be returned to the Romans, restoring the borders between Carthage and Rome to how they once were before the war. Hasdrubal was furious. He refused to accept this offer. All those Carthaginians had died for nothing if this deal was to pass, and yet it was necessary if he was to regain his territory in Africa and Iberia. "Accept my original offer," said Hasdrubal, "or my armies from southern Italy will march up and burn you all." The Romans replied, "Then we will all burn together." Hasdrubal knew this to be true. Yes, he knew he could end the Roman Republic once and for all, but his own troops will then be massacred by the Gauls in the north. Hasdrubal was shook. He did not know what to do. It took him 2 days to think of his plan. He took the Romans' offer. He returned all former Roman provinces back to the Roman Republic, and the Romans therefore guaranteed him that he would be allowed to return back home to Carthage to save his own empire. Hasdrubal did return to Carthage. He fought the African armies and forced them back. He then marched south and took Forpus. With whatever troops he had left, he then sailed back, landed in southern Iberia and retook Carthago Nova and then Corduba. He would die in battle, but live happy, knowing that the losses that Carthage suffered under his father's rule were revenged. The First Punic War had cost the lives of thousands on both sides. All that death, and neither faction gained anything. Both empires had been brought to ruin in trying to become dominant in the Mediterranean world. And as Carthage built up, so did the Romans. Neither won, neither lost. The First Punic War of Hanno came to a draw. All those resources, all that death, it all came to nothing. Will the lessons of the past be learnt if war was to break out between these two factions ever again? Hanno, the destroyer of worlds, he was known in the Western Mediterranean, and Hasdrubal, the visionary. And still, in the end, it all came down to nothing. And I guess there we are. at the end of a series. Now, yeah, I hope you enjoyed. This is of course the biggest project I've ever embarked on to date, and I really enjoyed making this, although it took a lot of time. I definitely enjoyed it, and I can tell by the comments and likes and everything that other people did as well. In terms of views, it wasn't actually that popular, but you know, in terms of feedback, it really was. So something like this will come again, and yeah, I've got loads of ideas as it is, and yeah, they're going to start emerging sometime in late March and early April. Future ones will be scripted. This was not scripted, this was just made off the top of my head. In future they will come with a script, and I'm hoping to get a new microphone. I should have one by then. I'm currently saving up my YouTube advertisement money, so if you see a few more ads running on my videos, you know why. I'm saving up for this new mic. I'm about £18 away by now. So of course, you know, you don't have to donate, but donations do help. Again, as I said, you don't have to, but you know, just a little bit more, anything at all would help to get me to the stage where I can get this new mic, and then hopefully make these videos better. But of course, as I said, don't worry about it. I'm going to hit that money threshold soon anyway, eventually, from advertisement revenue. So I'm not desperate for it, but it would speed it up, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, more of these will come. They'll be more in depth and a little bit more organised. This one, if I'm being honest, it was a little bit rushed, and it wasn't meant to be a documentary series at start. It was only once I got halfway through doing it that I decided, yes, this is what I want to turn it into, which is why at times the audio was a little bit weird, as in, it didn't sound like professional style words. You know what I mean, I've already explained this, I think. But yeah, I'm happy that it went well. Well, I'm assuming this third episode went well. I was going for like a really dark theme where, you know, no one gains and more sort of thing. Hopefully you took it well. I definitely do think that Carthage in this situation did make the right choice. You know, they had to rebuild their empire and stuff. Of course it meant the Romans get strong again, but I think that was just a risk Hasdrubal was willing to take. Overall, I hope you enjoyed this series. Hope to see you in the next video that I do, whatever it is, and goodbye.